All right, and Cheryl, thanks for sharing in the chat. You said you're interested in learning whatever you can to improve using assessments. Anything that you can do to encourage student participation is desirable. And we can definitely, some of the things we'll talk about today should help with that. And then I'm happy to sort of discuss that in a bit more detail as well before we close out. So I appreciate you for sharing. All right, so our session today is a 30-minute deep dive on customizing assessments to meet student needs. And just as a note for the session, we are going to provide a copy of the slide deck in the recording for you, so you'll be able to reference that whenever you like. And everybody's pretty much familiar with Zoom, the Zoom basics, but feel free to let me know in the chat if you have any questions. I'm your presenter today, Brian Story, the Director of Teacher Engagement at ASSISTments, and so I'm happy to sort of share some different strategies and functionality that you can use in assessments to make sure all your students get a customized experience that meets their needs. And so I want to start with just some context on the topic. So why is this customization important? I think a lot of teachers understand already that students are, coming in at, different skill levels, knowledge levels, different levels of confidence in math. In addition to that, teachers are still addressing the ongoing issues with learning loss from COVID. We also know that teachers that use assessments really enjoy it because they're able to identify some of those learning gaps and basically leverage technology to kind of give students, meet students halfway and meet their needs in the moment. And so our goal for today's session is to go through and make sure that you're confident and ready to use 3 concrete strategies to customize the assessments experience to meet the needs of all your students. We do assume today that you know how to assign problem sets and assessments, and also that you know how to access and interpret assignment report data. However, if any questions arise during today's session, you can still feel free to ask. And so basically, we're going to go through the 3 strategies today, and then we'll wrap up after that with a few important notes. So we're going to think about customization and assessments today in terms of differentiation, right? You're customizing, any student experience with any type of assignment because you're trying to differentiate, and meet their needs, make the assignment accessible to them, and in some way meet them where they are, right? So we want to think about customizing in terms of how it supports differentiation. There's typically 3 different places that you can have differentiation. I won't read through all of this text, but tier 1 is basically, providing strong instruction and supports at the whole class level. And obviously implementing strategies that counteract unfinished learning. Tier 2 is medium to large groups of students, making sure that they're getting supplemental instruction to support their needs and learning and building skills and confidence in the material. And then tier 3 is providing a bit more of a one-to-one or very small group sort of method of differentiation, also just in time when the students need it, that is focused on unfinished learning, recovery, etc. And so given that, we sort of have broken down the different ways to customize into those 3 different tiers. So today, what we're going to talk about is customizing the student experience with the tier 1 supports of creating problem sets, custom problem sets, and authoring student supports. For tier 2, how to assign targeted practice to a subset of students based on data. And tier 3, utilizing the details report to provide one-to-one support to students to really dig into what they're doing during the assignment and how you can address their specific needs by looking at their more detailed data. And so it's pretty easy to sort of differentiate the types of problems and the type of experience that you want students to have in assessments. Our content library includes high quality problems from a variety of curricula. And you're obviously free to use any of those, and you can pull content from any different source together with another different source to create customized problem sets to meet students' needs. And so I'll go ahead and pause and just see if you have any questions at this point, Cheryl. And you can feel free to unmute and share aloud, or you can share in the chat. It's totally up to you. Excellent. And I'm glad that you think this will be beneficial. That's the whole point, is I want to make sure that we're providing high quality information that's really going to help you support your students. So let's go ahead and dive into custom problem sets and student supports. And basically the way this session works is I'll show you some of these features, and then I'll give you a chance to try them out on your own, and then come back with any noticings, wonderings, or questions that you might have. So I want to make sure that you have a good concept of how to actually, from the end of this session, go forward and use some of these things. So you can create custom problem sets by leveraging our content library to curate the assignment experience to match all students' needs. This could be for a few different purposes. It could be to create enrichment for students who have mastered a standard or skill or demonstrated their knowledge sufficiently. It could be creating a custom set to reinforce knowledge for students who are almost there. Or it could be remediation for students who need just a little bit more practice, and support in order to understand the material and be ready to move on. When we send a copy of the deck, we also have a user resource about how to create custom problem sets, so you'll be able to reference this whenever you like. And so there are a few different ways to do this, but I'm just going to go live. And let me get rid of this. Okay, here we go. So I'm just going to go live. And let's say right now I'm in the Kendall Hunt curriculum, and I'm in grade 7 looking at corresponding parts and scale factors. So it's in Unit 1, scale drawings. I like some of the problems in this set, but I want to be able to provide some different types of problems to students on this topic, not just problems that are in illustrative, right? And so what I would do here, and you can start from any place in this process really, but I'm going to start just by selecting a problem that I'd like to include in a custom set. And maybe I'll select 2 of these. Again, it's entirely up to you and what your students need. And instead of clicking assign to class, I'm going to click this down arrow and click save to my problem sets. And what this allows me to do is I can add this to an existing saved problem set, or I can go ahead and create a new one. And so I'm just going to create a new one today, and I'll call this the 1115 demo assignment, and choose the option to create the 1115 demo assignment, create and save. And so I can view the problem set from here, but I want to choose some more problems. So I'm going to click done. And then let's say, again, we're on this topic of scale factors. So, let's say, I could browse through the different folders here. I could go to problem solving sets and, see if I can find some problems. But I really want to see everything that ASSISTments has to offer on this topic and kind of choose from that list of problems. I can go up here and either search by standard or key term. So I'm just going to search for scale factor. And so I can see there's stuff on scale drawings here. So I'm going to take a look at that. And just for the purposes of the demo here, let's say that, I'm scrolling through these problems and I identify a few problems that I'd like to include in my set. So I'm going to check off those problems that I want to include. And then when I'm ready to add them, again, I just go back down to this down arrow, click save to my problem sets, and then I can search for that problem set I just created and save those problems to that set just like that. I can continue this process as long as I want until I have all the problems that I want. And then I can see this problem set in 2 ways. I can either click view problem set here, or I can go to my problem sets on the left-hand side of the screen, and I can actually see that problem set here. So I'm going to click this, and you can see those problems from illustrative, as well as the problems that I chose from the keyword search, all in one problem set. I can select all of these, and I can go ahead and assign them to my class. The other cool thing you can do here is, let's say you want the students to receive these problems in a different order. You can click that triple dot again next to the problem, and you can click move down. If it's farther down and you want to move it up, you can click that triple dot and click move up. And that's going to allow you to reorder the problems in whatever order you choose. You can also, if you want, just to see, if you want to test what this is going to look and feel like for students, you can always click this triple dot again and preview as a student so that you can go through the student experience and see what that's going to look like for them. And so the next piece that I want to talk about here specifically is customizing student supports. So we're really happy that we were able to release a new feature that allows teachers to author hints and explanations for students. Hints sort of being background information or knowledge that might help students, figure out the answer to a question. Explanations being, actually laying out how to solve the problem and what the correct answer is. Right. So let's say I've created this custom problem set to deliver to some of my students, and I want to make sure that there are a few key pieces of information that they have access to support them as they're answering the questions. So I can click the triple dot here and click Edit Student Supports. This is going to allow me to actually go ahead and add student supports, even if we already have some created in the background. Whatever you create here is what students are going to see. So you have the ability to customize right here by clicking Add a Hint. And I'll just say hint number 1. If you want to, and click Publish, and you can continue to create more hints. So if you want students to have access to 3 different hints, you could create 3 different ones. And you also have the ability to order these hints in whatever way you want. So if a student is experiencing the problem set and you want them to see one hint before another, you can always click and drag these, and it's going to allow you to order those hints in the way that you want students to receive them. In terms of explanations, you can add an explanation as well by clicking explanation and doing the same thing. Explanations, you can only have one of those because obviously that explains how to solve the problem and gives the correct answer, but you can provide that if you so choose. And so once I've done that, I can even test this out and see what it looks like for the student. So if I go to preview as a student, you can see I have the option to show hint 1 of 2. I can click show hint, and the student is going to see right there the hints that I created, and that can help them to solve the problem. So what I want to do now that I've shown you these 2 elements, creating a custom problem set and adding student supports, I want to give you a chance to try this out. So what I want you to do, and I'm going to give approximately 3 minutes or so, but if we need a few more minutes, that's fine too. Give you 3 minutes to go into your ASSISTments account, create a custom problem set just by pulling problems from different sources, and then try to add at least one, edit the student supports by clicking the triple dot and add at least one hint or explanation to that. And then when you come back, just be ready to share any noticing or wondering or questions that you might have as a result of that experience. So I will give a 1-minute warning when we're getting close to time. If you need more time, just let me know in the chat and we'll come back together after that. Okay, we're going to take about 1 more minute. Again, if you need more time, just let me know in the chat. All right, so coming back together, it looks like you shared some noticings in the chat. So you said the customized student supports are fabulous, that you'll definitely use that. We're glad to hear that those will be helpful for you and your students. And you notice that the open responses do not allow for hints and explanations. That's correct. So because students can enter anything and the teachers have to score those on their own, there's no ability to add hints or explanations to open response questions. So definitely good to make sure you remember that. And so the next piece is assigning to a subset of a class. So we added this feature during last school year, and it's something that we're really happy about because one of the common pieces of feedback that we got from teachers is that they'd like to be able to assign some problems to some students and other problems to other students. When I was a teacher in the classroom, I had students that covered probably 6 different grade levels plus, and that's being conservative. And so there are often going to be times where, differentiating for students means that you have some students doing one thing and you have other students doing another. And so we have this feature of assigning to a subset of a class. And so you might use your ASSISTments data to decide that you want to assign to a specific subgroup of students in your class. And so I'm going to show you what that looks like. If I'm going back over here, I'm going to go to my assignments. And let's say I'm just going to look at one of my assignment reports here. Okay. And when I look at the student scores here, I can see that there were, probably about half the class, they were able to, or more than half of the class, they were able to get scores, in the 70s or above. Let's say my pass fail standard for an assistance assignment is like 75. But I can see that there are a few students here who were unable to sort of get there. And so what I want to do, and I'm going to unhide the names here. I just want to note some of these students that look like they need some additional support with this standard. And so I can see student H and I, and I can see M and N. And so if we imagine that custom problem set I just created, is an intervention for, say, the students who didn't do so well on this assignment, H, I, and M, N. I'm going to go back to that custom problem set. And once I've selected the problems, and I click assign to class, I can go over here, and once I select my class, I can then choose just those students. So I can uncheck select all students, and I just want to go with H, I, M, and N, and they conveniently happen to be right here at the top of the list. That was not intentional. So I choose those students specifically, and then once I click assign to class, only those students are going to get that assignment. So I can make sure that students get practice, differentiated to meet their needs based on the data I'm already getting in real time in ASSISTments right there. So that's how you can assign to a subset of a class. Now, what I'm going to do is in the chat, I'm going to share an example report. If you, I believe, are you a Google Classroom user, Cheryl? Is that correct? You can just tell me in the chat if you want. Okay, good. So I'm going to share a link to a live report in the chat, and I want you to identify, a few students that you might assign some differentiated support to, and then just practice using this assign to a subset feature, with your own classes. And I think actually based on time, I just want to give you a minute or so just to explore the assigning to a subset feature itself. So you can feel free to say, you want your 1 minute to try that out, or you're already familiar with this feature and you're ready to move on. So just share in the chat with me what's going to make most sense for you today. Okay, all right. So if this makes sense, and you've used the assign time options before, so you know where that's going to appear. Basically, once you choose your classes, then this drop down appears, and you'll be able to select the students that you can assign to. The last one is a student details report. Sometimes teachers might not realize this exists, but it's really handy if you really want to get a play-by-play of how students are doing. And, let's say you need to have a one-on-one conversation with the student, do some reteaching, or address classroom norms around how they're actually participating in the assignment. Like, are they making their best effort? You can use this details report to see like how to best support the student, and also just as that direct evidence in those conversations. So instead of grounding it in, the conversation in, well, here's what I observe, through my eyes or whatever, you can say, well, the data show, your data show this. And so you can have a sort of, it's difficult to give constructive feedback to young folks, without them necessarily having a negative reaction. So it's just another approach that you can take to kind of keep the conversation productive and positive, and help them to engage in what you need them to do. Right. And so what I want to do is just show you how to access these and how to interpret them. And I also have a link to analyzing the student details report in the deck. So if that's something you're interested in, you can check that out. If I go back over here to one of my assignment reports, I'll go back to that same one. I can basically access those student details by clicking any student's name. So if I go over here and I want to dig a little bit deeper on, what's going wrong here for student H, right? I click their name and I get this play-by-play. For each question, I can see the date and time when they did it. I can see, each action that they took with the question. So I can see they answered this first one correctly on their first attempt. But on the second question, I can see the student requested they didn't even make any attempts. They just requested the answer and then put the correct answer in. So this might be an example of, sitting down with the student and saying, hey, I know that, you're kind of getting this material. It's okay if, you're still learning. But, one thing that I don't want to see is, you just requesting the answer without making your best effort first. Right. And so that might be something useful to point out here. You can also see exactly. So that's the other way that I actually frame this. So in parent-teacher conferences, again, you can move away from speaking about the anecdotes and your observations and move toward using the data as an example. And it's much harder to dispute the data the student's generating than it is to dispute what a teacher's opinion is, right? So it can just really help to keep those conversations positive and productive. Absolutely. And so you can see here the student answered incorrectly twice before they answered correctly. So you've got some constructive criticism here, and you've got reasons for praise right here in this report. So especially if you're trying to build student investment and you have students who they're not quite sure, why are we using ASSISTments, or why are we doing these problems? Like grounding some of the conversations with students in, well, here's what I see you doing, so here's the feedback that I have for you, go ahead and give that a try. They see that you're seeing what they're doing, that you're giving them instructions that match what they need, and that's going to help to build some of that investment among students who may not be they may not always be completing their assignments or doing what they're supposed to be doing. The other cool thing here that I just wanted to share was deleting student progress. And this is just kind of an extra side note, just in case you didn't know. So if you do some one-to-one or some reteaching and you want the student to try that assignment again, you can click the triple dot next to their name in your assignment report, and you can actually delete their progress so that they can click the same link and try again. So just wanted to highlight that that's an option. All right. So feel free to post any questions in the chat as we go. We're going to go ahead and close out today with just some wrap up and next steps. And I did want to share, and I'll put this in the chat as well. We have a partnership with, and I'm so glad that this was useful information for you. That definitely means a lot because we want to support our teachers. So we have this partnership with Upchieve, where ASSISTments teachers in qualifying Title I high schools can now enable expert live tutoring through ASSISTments for free. And so if you think you might qualify for that and you're interested in sort of getting access to that, you can definitely click this link that I'm going to put in the chat. It'll also be in the deck that I send out if you're interested in kind of learning more. Just to recap what we covered today, it was basically wanting to make sure that you know how to use three different concrete strategies to customize ASSISTments to meet the needs of all of your students. And I would really love to get your feedback. So we use all of our teacher feedback to guide, how we modify our materials and the different professional learning opportunities that we provide. So I'm going to post the survey in the chat. And it shouldn't take more than about 30 to 60 seconds to complete. So I'll give you a few moment just to finish that, and then we will go over the last few things to close out. Okie dokie. So just to close us out, if you're so today was all about customizing ASSISTments. If you want to learn more about the basics of using ASSISTments or our data, you can always check out our webinar library linked here in the deck. Be on the lookout for our spring webinar series. We should be launching the registration for our January sessions in December. So we're excited about that. You can always visit our website for more resources. We have our user guides on the website just to show you how to access this. On the main page at assistments.org, you can click resources and go to user guides and find all sorts of useful information about how getting started, finding and assigning content, reports and data. There are a lot of different resources there that you may find helpful. You can also feel free to join our Facebook user community. We're on Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn. And if you ever have any questions or need help with anything, you can always reach out to contact@assistments.org and we'll be more than happy to help you. And so that's it for today's session. I'll leave it open and see if you have any questions that you want to share. And other than that, I appreciate you for joining us today and for sharing your thoughts in the chat. And you're welcome. Again, happy to help teachers and make sure that you all know all the different ways of using ASSISTments to support your students. So excited to share the information. All right.